listening to CLNS Media, powered by betonline.ag. Go to clnsmedia.com/roll. Use our promo code CLNS50 for 50% off your first deposit.
Welcome inside an audio edition of the Garden Report. I'm Nick Gelso. I'm joined by John Zannis, freshly back from the beach. How was the beach, man?
Pretty good.
Was the beach a bitch? No, it was good. Good, man. Yeah, well, you know what? A lot's happened while you were away. And you think the quiet off season, right?
I mean, we're definitely in that kind of zone right now where, there's not a lot happening now. We're kind of waiting for it to pick up, but there's drips and drabs, and it's kind of keeping us interested. And we're still almost like Rick Pitino. We're still waiting to hear from Kyrie. Despite, who hasn't actually been introduced yet. Nobody's gotten to ask him any questions about anything. So, I guess that's the last thing where I'm interested in right now is, what's going on, man,
Yeah, like what's going on with that? First of all, let's pay the bills, man. Today we're powered by Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com if you're a dude. You know what I'm talking about. You got to trim up, get rid of that OCB, out of control bush. Go to manscaped.com. Use the promo code GARDEN. Dude, the product's crazy good.
No,
and you get 20% off free shipping.
My favorite thing is listening to all our podcasters do this ad.
It has been a hoot, and like the emails that we're getting in, people actually love this product. I like it. Now I'm just seeing you're going to be putting pre-rolls on our videos, John. They have a new powder line that they're going with right now. So, to get rid of the itching. So, really funny. I think finally a male skewing sponsor, but we have another one too, and that's our friends over at BetOnline. Go to clnsmedia.com/win. They'll add 50% back to your sportsbook deposit. And John, a couple things have happened while you're away. It is the quiet doldrums, but last year at this time, if you remember, didn't all the Kyrie 2 years ago, the Kyrie trade happen around this time?
It was August,
right? It was late.
Yeah, it was late 2 years ago. Who knows? There could be another shoe to drop, but right. Yeah, it was late. I was also on vacation when that happened. I
remember it. My God. Could it be, right? You're like, nothing ever happens this week. We just, trade the whole. Actually, you weren't working with us then, I don't think.
No. It got ugly. But yeah, waiting to hear on Kyrie right now is interesting. I know, he's the latest thing is on a recent podcast, I think, with
Holly,
with Holly and Jackie Mack. That the latest thing is that he soured on Danny Ainge, which blows my mind because of all the things to sour on, sure, yeah, I get it. We saw the player stuff, with Brad. He wasn't. At some point he kind of tuned out Brad and started doing his own thing. That seemed to get a lot worse as the season went on. But what Jackie was saying here, and now obviously if Jackie says it, you consider it gospel, was that he'd kind of like that he'd soured on Danny Ainge by December. How do you sour on a general manager? What does the GM have to do with anything? I can't even fathom how. I can't even fathom how that's the story.
Well, listen, so you take them from a franchise where, the GM was a player and the coach was a player. He's actually having somebody, I would imagine, that's saying, dude, like, no. I would think it's easier to say yes than no to a baby, and Kyrie's a baby. So, Danny says no, Kyrie doesn't like it. Now, I'm speculating, but I can tell you this, and John, you know it too. You know it better than me, probably. All the years I've been covering the locker room, I've never seen Danny Ainge in the locker room as much as he was this year post game after game. So, you could sense it.
No, but I remember it. I'm looking back on the calendar. It's the December thing that I don't get. And then you saw the thing, a week ago or so with, Spencer Dinwiddie says, with the Nets that he kind of started dropping hints to me in December that he was eyeing Brooklyn. So, the exit was, he started building his tampering or not. Kyrie started building his off ramp like a month into the season. It's really early. And I don't get the tamper. We saw Danny in the locker room, but things kind of came to a head. I remember, you remember in January when he starts calling out teammates and this and that. And then, we know that Danny was in the locker room and talked him down, and that was supposedly a good thing. But before that, I hadn't really seen it. So it just didn't, how you sour on Danny, I get the other stuff, egos, butting heads and all of that. The Danny thing, I don't fully get where,
I don't know why you don't get it, John.
Well, what I don't get is they don't really have any reason to interact, Nick. It's Danny's the money. Like Danny's the guy basically saying, hey, on July 1st, I'm going to hand you this piece of paper. You already know what the number is. You already know what it's going to say, and you're going to sign it, right? And that's it. They have no other reason to interact outside.
But he also has the ability to say, I'm not going to offer you this, or you need to do this in order for me to do this, right?
I doubt it.
And listen, man, I mean, I agree, but when you have something like, Brad Stevens, who was completely lost that locker room by December, it was by December, because they were playing terribly up until – that's the irony of the whole thing. I don't want to spend this whole show on Kyrie again, but the irony is they were playing horrendous until January when Kyrie – they started playing well because they went on a homestand, and that's when Kyrie lost his nerve. That's what I don't get. I get why Ainge was involved because Brad. I don't know, but it seemed to me Brad couldn't control him, and Danny tried to, and Kyrie didn't like it. And the Celtics locker room, although they're not in the locker room right now, but it hasn't quieted down, John. I mean, you're still talking like Jayson Tatum suddenly got vocal cords. I mean, is this a good or bad thing that he's bragging up himself and the Celtics? As far as what he said was right, he's going to average 20 plus. He's going to be an all-star, and the Celtics are going to come out of the East. That's what I heard.
So let's go categorically. So the backstory for everybody who's probably seen it at this point is Tatum got a bad rating on NBA 2K, and he felt disrespected by it. So he laid down.
Sick of these guys.
I know. And so he laid down his prediction. So let's go for it. The three predictions. Number one, average over 20. No. You don't think so?
No. High teens. I think he's going to have a good season, but he's not going to be over 20.
I'm gonna go just under 20.
Yeah.
I think he ticks up again to about 17, 18.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was thinking 18.
Okay.
I can see that.
So if that's all he's scoring and really all he is a scorer, all-star, then we're going to say no to that.
No, I mean, he's got to improve his defensive game. He's got to get to the line. He's got to do so much before he's an all-star. He is not an all-star.
Yeah. And then Celtics go into the championship.
That's just that would have to be catastrophic. Failures in Milwaukee and in Philadelphia. I mean, you'd be looking for a lot of pieces to fall apart for the Celtics to come out of the East.
Sure.
But we've seen them do the impossible before and overachieve, and it's possible. Anything's possible. It's a great story.
Yeah. So I mean, the bet online odds on each of these things would be long odds here.
I want to say so the Celtics are 7-1 on bet online. So to get out of the East.
But I don't. Yeah, but I don't mind any of that. I actually like it, even though it's Mickey Mouse, kind of 20-something nonsense, like caring about your.
But he doesn't talk normally, John. I mean, it's so NBA. Weird.
Yeah. So whatever, I don't mind it. So to me, I don't like. You could use a little bit of that. That aw shucks stuff that was going on all last year, and him being soft spoken. I want him to get a little angry. I want him to be pissed. I want him to be.
I get that.
Right. I want to see it. You want to see emotion. You want to see the dunking on LeBron Tatum, not last year just like Kyrie's mad at us again, sort of. So I'll take it. I just don't see any of that. I
do think they're going to win more games, John, than they did last year.
Which was what, 49?
Yeah, I think they could win 50-52. And I mean, there's no Kawhi. Philadelphia got better and really got better, but they lost Butler. I mean, they bring in Horford, a 33-year-old Horford, who I think had more value to the Celtics as, their veteran presence. It's still a mystery whether he's going to mesh or not with those Philadelphia 76ers because he's got to take that leadership role. So I don't know how Embiid and Simmons and these guys are going to react to it. So at Philadelphia, to me, is a stalemate. They went parallel. They lost Butler, picked up Horford. Really, it's Milwaukee. The Celtics could win 50-plus games.
They could, and Philly's a weird one because talent-wise, just on paper, it's good. And but their lineup is weird, and now
bigs.
They've got bigs, and you lose a guy like Redick, and you lose Butler. So they're interesting. And also just, I mean, I know a lot of the reasons they struggled with the Celtics was the Horford-Embiid dynamic, which you don't have anymore in your favor. But it is an interesting thing to see because, the Celtics have had their number for a couple of years. So you never know. You get into the playoffs, matchups, a lot of things could happen. I actually, of the 3 Tatum predictions, I think if I bet on one, I would say Celtics get to the championship ahead of the other 2 things.
Wow.
Yeah.
John Zannis dropping hot takes, baby.
Well, I don't see it because look at it. No, but look at it this way: Kemba's going to replace Kyrie's scoring. Yeah. Al, who's gone,
Al's the irreplaceable.
But Al wasn't good for a lot of buckets anyway, so it's not like there's more shots. There's going to be that many more shots available with Horford. He might go. He shot 8, 9, 10 times a game. So I think Tatum's going to roughly get the same. I mean, a little bit more freedom. He's going to shoot a little more than last year, but I don't think he's hoisting 20 shots a game.
No, but here's what changes. The dark cloud is gone. Everybody starts playing more freely, and no one is giving Hayward any sort of credit towards a chance at all after last year. I think you're going to see a different Hayward. He's got to get his shots. The whole team should play more freely, more open, and Kemba is not. Although he's a ball-dominant guy, he's not going to demand the ball the way or control the ball the way Kyrie did. Stop the ball in so many cases. I hope not.
Right.
So, it could. Yeah, could. I think they could. The Celtics, if Brad Stevens is back to Brad Stevens and this team responds well to him, and the Al loss isn't as catastrophic as it seems to be on the exterior from an intangible standpoint, I think the Celtics could. I mean, it sounds like Homerville here, but if anybody's listened to any of our previous podcasts or Twitter handles, we're not homers.
That's not us, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I do think the East is weaker.
I'm dubious, but I also think there's no dominant team where you're like, I can't get by these guys. Yeah,
there's no LeBron, there's no Kawhi.
And there's a lot of, I don't know how this is going to work scenarios out there. You don't know what, I mean, sure, Brooklyn's without Durant this year. You can, and they've just got Kyrie. They'll be competitive, but you can, you're not worried about them. Toronto obviously takes a step back. Milwaukee is Milwaukee.
But Milwaukee kind of took a step back too. They lost some personnel.
But then you're looking at Philly, which is Philly and Boston,
Philly's
which is
the wild card.
Yeah, I want to see what they look like. Philly could come up and friggin' win 67 games, and be but they could also there could be some weirdness there, right?
There definitely could be because it really all depends on how Embiid, Simmons, these guys are going to react to Al. Now, we don't know because Al is such a quiet guy, but we don't know if that was part of the problem last year in Boston was people weren't reacting well to Al. I know he felt disrespected in some way, shape, or form, and it could be that. Who knows? And then there's Brett Brown. I mean, Al could really lend credibility to him by not just helping, but being supportive of him. So if it all works out in a perfect world, Philadelphia, in my opinion, should be the best team in the East. But again, it's wild card type scenario. And Boston, I keep telling everybody, they did not get worse. They got less talented, but they didn't get worse. You can't get worse than what they were last season.
Yeah.
Not with the personnel.
Right. You can't. The thing with Tatum, with me, and this is where I've always been with him, is I've always been worried that we're closer to his ceiling than we think, both from his rookie year and last year. Mm-hmm. That it's 17, 18, and a third wheel on a good team, and possibly a number 2 guy on a bad team, and not star. I just don't see. I'm seeing some things written, obviously a lot of people handing it to Jaylen and Jayson, and they're going to be the Butler and Kawhi duo and the wings and the wings. I've always been skeptical of that. So what do you think, Nick?
Go ahead.
What do you think the ceiling is here? And do you think it's here long term? Is this guy a Celtic for good? And is he going to go down as a great?
Support for the Garden Report comes from Manscaped, the #1 in men's below-the-belt grooming. Yeah, below the belt. We're talking about your balls. Not basketballs, but your actual balls between your legs, fellas. And it's time you give them a little more TLC. because I know nobody else is going to do that for you. But seriously, Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. I love that line. So picture this, right? You're getting ready for a hot date. You're feeling pretty good. It's like date number 3, maybe number 4. So, I mean, anything could really happen. So you're up against the clock. You got to get to this date, but you also got to clean the beans down below before you head out. And then all of a sudden, ouch! You just nicked yourself. Blood all over the place. You got to change now. You're scrambling. It's a tough way to start the night. And unfortunately, this is all too common. That's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer, okay? Their Lawnmower 2.0 has proprietary skin-safe technology. So this trimmer won't nick or snag your nuts. Seriously, it'll have them looking cleaner than the Wimbledon courts out there. Say goodbye to snagged balls and never, ever, ever use the same trimmer on your face as you're using on your balls. We've all done it, but no more. And what about the stank? Personally, I'm already good down there, ladies. But for some dudes, let's just say it doesn't smell like roses, especially in the middle of the summer. Manscaped has the Crop Preserver, okay? An anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer that will have your balls feeling and smelling like $1,000,000. I mean, at the very least, it's a conversation starter back at the place. Come on, guys, get creative with it. And also get 20% off and free shipping with the code GARDEN at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code GARDEN. Your balls will thank you.
I would have, John, answering your question on Tatum, I would have said that I wasn't sure if I didn't see what I saw his rookie season in the playoffs. I mean, he demanded the ball and took over that run and was instrumental. And I just think, man, he's got a little growing up to do. I mean, he's young. He's got to put some weight on. But really, it's a maturity thing. If he could get that together and stay focused without all the distractions, I think we're going to – it is – I mean, I don't think he'll be an all-star this year, but it is possible he could play all-star caliber basketball. I don't think we've come anywhere near his ceiling yet. And as far as Jaylen Brown goes, I don't expect him to be in green next season if by the trade deadline. So I think that's a moot point.
Yeah.
And I'll get beat the hell out of for saying that, but it's true. I just don't see – I don't sign him to a max deal. And that's what he wants.
You don't?
He ain't worth it. No. Jaylen? No. Do you?
I'm surprised he's still here.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest.
Yeah. I mean, and last year he ended up being probably one of the only guys who midway through the season, along with Smart, grew a set and was tough and actually rebounded.
We love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Great. But he was good, but it's how good. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I know the Celtic Stuff Live guys kind of picked on, picked this apart a little bit in their latest podcast, looking at Keith Smith had kind of did a big post summer league dump. And one of them was from an executive outside of Boston who was talking about, when they saw the Celtics were kind of sort of falling apart, they swooped in thinking, I'm going to see if I can get Jaylen, see if maybe they're ready to move on. They've got, now they're wing heavy. Maybe I can snack him. And according to what Keith wrote, the conversation got about as far as the J sound out of my mouth. And they said, neither Jayson or Jaylen are on the table for you. So again, I mean, this isn't just Danny playing hardball with teams who are desperate to sell. You've got somebody on the ropes and they're like, what about Jaylen? And you're like, no, thanks, pal. Or trade deadline stuff or expiring guys who you don't know if you can re-sign. I know Jaylen was up for a conversation with other players, obviously famously for Leonard, but it sounds like they legit hang up the phone anytime anybody mentions these guys. They're absolutely in love with them. One guy they're not in love with after his car wash on ESPN, and that's Terry Rozier and Bob Ryan, dude. Bob Ryan's still dropping bombs. What did he call him on Celtics Beat this week? A jackass? What did he call him? He said something about him looking in the mirror. Yeah, something like that. And what does he see? How does he not see it? Yeah. So, I mean, does he not realize what a jerk he was last year? Right. And to me, I was around Rozier. Who knows what? I mean, he was leaking things all year long to the media, but he wasn't that bad. It was the post elimination going on ESPN that was horrendous. And then a lot of what he said is true. I would think, because other people have corroborated it. But the other thing Bob said was about Kyrie.
Did he call him a wackadoo? I can't remember, dude. I'm all over the place with all this.
What he had said, what Bob had said about Kyrie
he
was
said this on the show.
Stuff he said before. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he's not as smart as he thinks he is, and he basically said, and this is another. He said that there's no way. I mean, look, there are certain guys everywhere they go. It's good for a little bit, and then it's going to go bad. Kyrie's one of those guys, and in Bob's estimation, there's no way. Right. In Bob's estimation, there's no way. There's no way that he's going to not play for multiple more teams after Brooklyn. I
agree.
Something's going to happen there. That's going to be a fascinating thing too. If that doesn't work there with him and Durant, man, is that going to be interesting?
Yeah, we'll have reporters down there for sure. There's no way we're missing out on that circus. And I agree with Bob on that. I think Kyrie's going to be remembered as, one of the biggest shots in NBA Finals history. Won one championship, never got back to the finals, and it became a journeyman. Yeah. And I think I was going to say no different than Ray Allen. Only Ray Allen won championships once he left Boston. Right. I don't know that Kyrie is going to do that. I certainly have if I'm Brooklyn, I have no faith in Kyrie and Durant being able to lead that team, let alone each other. Right. Yeah. So that's a disaster waiting to happen. Now, Rozier, I just want to go back to that for 1 minute because he ends up getting a payday. He gets paid pretty well in that move. And I think he's going to do pretty well there. I think that's a good switch up for him. I'm a Rozier guy. I liked Rozier.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was never a Rozier guy.
I know
he lost his mind. He lost his mind in the playoffs a year ago, and it was like, okay, this is kind of fun. You're wondering whether you have something there. Then not only did he regress to the mean, he went. Way, way back. This is a guy who it doesn't matter. You don't always. I think the mistake they make with Rozier is they break it down into, wow, he was really good in those playoffs when Kyrie was gone. And then with Kyrie, he wasn't as good. So maybe he's good, ignoring every other thing that's ever happened around him through his NBA career, which is one of the most inefficient offensive players in the league. He is not an efficient offensive player.
Well,
the numbers bear out on that over his career. Again,
the numbers contradict everything he said on ESPN, to be honest with you, even right down to Hayward's touches.
He's not the guy. He caught lightning in a bottle or sold his soul or whatever he did in those playoffs, and he had some ridiculous performances. Hats off. He did it when Kyrie. He did it during the season too. When Kyrie was down, he had huge regular season games. I don't think that guy comes back. I don't.
You see, I think there's certain players that are meant to start and certain players that are meant to come off the bench. I think he's not a starter on a contending team. But, on a middle of the road or a bottom dwelling team, he could start, and I think he's going to play better in a starting role. I would be more confident if he didn't have the reputation or what we had witnessed prior to his explosion the first year Kyrie was here. And prior to that, everybody was saying get rid of Rozier, right? So it all comes down to this. If he is in a role, I think he'll be a 14, 15 point scorer. I think he's going to do pretty well there. And I think when it's all said and done in Boston, he's going to be a distant memory by December, if even that long, because I think Kemba Walker is going to not just roll into town and fit right into Kyrie's position, but he's going to do it with a good attitude. And I think that last season is going to be a distant memory. Before we wrap here, John, we have to touch on Kanter. And it's Kanter, right? Here's this guy, and I don't know what he's done in his career. I've followed him here and there. My favorite move he's ever made is when he was a rookie and stood right up to LeBron. That was amazing. But what he's done with the Kyrie number 11 has been quite hilarious. And I think that loosey-goosey attitude was just so missing the last two seasons. So to have somebody that's able to, A, rebound on this team, right, B, shoot free throws, good offensive player. He has to improve on defense, but Brad in the right positions makes, he hides poor defenders. So I think Enes Kanter, not just from a statistical standpoint, but I think from also an attitude standpoint, is going to be a welcome personality behind the scenes there, keeping things a little bit lighter with a very, very, what could be a very tense group.
Yeah. You see what he and Evan Turner did in Portland.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's completely.
Yep.
I mean, that you know, obviously those weren't the stars of the team, but that. You know, that attitude was great. And I mean, look, this is a guy who was a starting center for a team that made a conference final. I mean, it's not, you know, he's not a thrower.
He's not something to laugh at.
But I mean, he's super funny, and you know the social media stuff, the dig at Kyrie,
Great, man. How great was that?
The cheat day videos on Twitter with his ridiculous diets. That stuff's great. He's going to be a ton of fun. They're going to be. That's the thing. You know,
fun to watch.
You talk about vibe. The vibe was miserable. This was I mean, you and I were trading off like wanting to not go to games, right?
I know.
Like you go.
Imagine
I don't want
that.
to go.
Yeah, I know. Are you sure? Wait, come on. Do you really want to go tonight? Do you really want me to go tonight?
It was such a not just a joyless slog in terms of the people. Look, they don't have to be happy. That's not their job. Their job is to win. But like you couldn't every time, even if they did do something well. And, you know, or you know, they'd play a good game or two and you'd wonder if they turned the corner. It still felt fraudulent. It never really felt like it was there. It felt like they were going through the motions. You could feel how many people were checked out and had tuned things out. You knew Brad had lost control early. It had that vibe all year. It didn't feel – you'd walk into the locker room and nobody would be talking to anybody.
Each other.
Nobody. It wasn't like there was small factions of, the kids are hanging out. It was every guy dressed by themselves, looked straight ahead, said
even in wins,
anyone, even in wins,
even
and
big
just
wins.
Walked out the door. There was, I mean, maybe one or two times where you walk out of the locker room like, these guys were in a good mood. I mean,
I can't tell you that I don't remember many last year.
There was a couple, and it was such a departure from everything. That's why it sticks out to me. So you know, it's going to be different in that regard, but also just it's just going to feel a little bit more cohesive, and it's going to be more fun to watch. And again, going back to I was listening to those guys, the Celtic Stuff Live guys. Yeah. With their latest, Justin, they differ on it. Justin's all in on this. He wants to love again. And I've kind of always felt that way too. I'd be willing to sacrifice wins and a shot at potential greatness to just not have it be as miserable as it was, and that's. Kanter will be a huge part of that. He's going to have his ups and downs. Kemba's going to be great. He's by all accounts terrific guy. Everybody kind of takes to him. He's got a super, super positive attitude. It's going to be a totally different vibe. So again, what it comes back to is the kids. Can they take that step forward? Can they kind of get out of their little shells? Like, I don't want to see quiet mumbling under your breath, sad Jayson and Jalen this year. You want to see them. And again, I was going to bring this up, but it's stirring up controversy.
No, go ahead, bring it up.
We can. We're going a little bit over time. When we're talking about Tatum, and again, this is something Bill Simmons brought up on his podcast.
Love Bill.
Yeah. So again, this is manufacturing a controversy simply based on one man's opinion, and I'm not jumping on board with it. But what he had said was, following Tatum's social media throughout the course of the season, you wouldn't be able to tell he plays for the Celtics.
I didn't hear Bill say that, but what did he mean by that?
Meaning that he retweeted or liked or threw support behind anytime, like when Terry got paid or Bradley Beal, who's one of his boys, whatever it is. He'd throw support around a lot of other people and things. Terry got paid, go get that money, whatever it was. But doing stuff for video games, shoes, his own brand. But there isn't one. Looking through his timeline, oh my God, so psyched to play with Kemba tweet, or these guys are awesome. I can't wait to that. We're going to be great. Watch out for us this year. And again, he did say Celtics are going to win the championship in his prediction, so you can kind of put.
He might have meant that on EA Sports, though, not in real life.
It might not be his style. I'm not manufacturing the controversy. I just want him to be just. You want to see, you want to shake him, get excited, man, get into it. And again, it's not all just locker room talk and this and that. You just want to see, he didn't look happy or pumped to do anything last year. Even when buckets went in, you just didn't see one hint of emotion through any of it. And with Jalen, he seemed more angry than anything.
Well, he was. He was getting called out on a regular. He got shoved on the bench. I'm not a Jalen guy.
And he played with fire late, but I want to see those guys have attitude and ownership more than anything else. That's what you want to see. You want to see them say, F you, this is our team.
That's right.
Let's effing go, and that's what I'm looking forward to as much as anything, because that's where the whole thing is going to hinge. Hayward's return and those two guys saying, F it, let's go. Let's do this. So we'll see.
There's got to be unity. I mean, as we're wrapping this up, it's a good thing to wrap on it. I think that by December, we will know just how much. I mean, even with Rozier gone, we will know just how much the young guys contributed to the poor morale last year. Because if they come in and they're not pumped out of their brains to get a chance again at this without that dark cloud, well, then maybe we know they were part of the problem last year, but maybe they were more part of the problem than we even thought. And we'll know fairly quickly by attitudes. And it's interesting what Simmons says about Tatum. Now, I know he wouldn't root for the Bruins, but that's because the Blues are from his home state, so his hometown. So I can understand that. But I don't really follow the players all that much on social media. Kanter, I'm loving because he's just throwing fire at Kyrie, but the rest of them I don't really follow too much. We're going to know really, really within the first 20 games of the season, I'd say, just like last year.
You are, because you feel like they went in and they excised all of the malignancies. You feel like, whether it Kyrie, Marcus,
Morris to a certain.
Marcus would say one thing and do another. Did it all. Yep. He did it all year. People liked him. He was good with the media. He was a good guy to cover. But he'd preach togetherness and sharing and don't worry about individual stuff. And then he'd shoot. He'd do
terrible shot selection. Yeah,
Rozier, same thing, talking out of both sides of his mouth. Those guys are gone. I think the other guys were stuck in the middle, and I agree. You're going to know quick if it's not going well and these guys aren't, owning it. There's a lot. This season's it's a lot of pressure on those guys. They make a huge leap, and everything's going to be okay, or they don't, and
Yeah, I mean, that's where the pressure lies. It lies with three people, the big three, let's call them. It's Brown, Tatum, and Hayward. That's everything.
Right. You know what you have in Kemba. You know what you have in Kanter.
Yeah.
You're going to get what you get out of those guys coming in. It's those guys. Who are you this year? That's everything. So
well, and let's face it, I said this 5 times, but as we're wrapping, Kanter and Kemba have already given the Celtics a bigger assist than Kyrie did in 2 years, and they haven't even touched the basketball yet. And that's because they want to play here.
Yeah.
And the Celtics were on a terrible PR stretch that was probably not quite as bad, but only probably parallels 06 maybe or Patino. I think it's just bad this year PR-wise. You thought all season long, towards the end of the season, post-February, no free agents are ever going to come here again. Kemba Walker changed that immediately. Kanter's attitude. So they have already thrown bigger assists to the Celtics than Kyrie. I never got that feeling from Kyrie.
Yeah, no.
He would have moments where you would kind of be like, he's getting it. He's liking to be here. Like the commercial, for instance. But you never felt too confident. He yanked it a month later.
Kyrie didn't want to be here. He just didn't want to be in the other place. And he tried to fool himself and everybody else into thinking this is what he wanted to do and where he wanted to be because it
legacy-wise, it makes sense. Yeah,
it made sense. Bingo. Good. I get my own team. It's a team with tradition. I can go up.
And it's opposite LeBron, who's on the Lakers. I mean, it was just perfect. And obviously, perfection doesn't work all the time. Neither does data. You data dorks who are constantly in your Excel spreadsheets. The Celtics should have won 60-plus games last year, and they sucked.
They did.
So your data was way off.
Yeah.
That's it, John. I mean, I'm at CLNS_Nick. Follow the network at Celtics CLNS. And John, I don't even know your handle. Does it matter?
Either. It doesn't matter.
He actually runs all the company accounts. Just hang out with him there.
Yeah, yes and no. Yeah, I might argue with you on the Celtics Twitter from time to time. It's me. If anybody thinks it's a nameless, faceless person,
they all think it's me, dude, and then they come trolling after me. It's not me. I don't have passwords to half of them.
No, nor do we want to give them to you. All right, cool. Thanks, Nick. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks, John. It was great.